Real quick, if you stuck with it let's try it again. That's farmer friend, singer-songwriter Lyal Strickland.
And that's farmer friend and jack of all trades Chris Horn.
And we're those Tastebud Guys. And we're back. Guys, thanks for joining us. If you have stuck with us this far, we really appreciate it. We appreciate all the likes and subscriptions and all the things that you guys have done for us so far and the outreach we've had. Thank you so much. Real quick, if you kind of notice we've been on this little trail we keep talking about as we go through.
I like you called it a trail.
Yeah, it's a little trail.
Just taking a small day hike through the woods.
Little beer tutorial, sort of, so to speak. I don't know.
Well, we did Pilsners, we did
we got
IPAs,
Pilsners,
Lagers, we did...
tiptoed into the craft sections.
Yep, and today we're following it up with...
We're getting into the stouts today. We're going to go into the dark stuff. And this is kind of going to wrap up our little... intro. I think that's the way we want to call it. We'll call it a beer intro.
Yeah.
So that gets you kind of caught up to where we was a few years ago with just knowing that there's a lot of different stuff out there. And the reason I say all that is going forward, we're going to try to make these episodes a little bit smaller, and we're going to focus on the taste primarily after this. And then if you guys have been watching our table episodes, we'll put the heavy information into those areas because it'll be a little longer. And we'll get to talk and chat.
So what are we working with?
All right, so today I am actually very happy to say we are going with Obsidian Stout.
Yep, this is your thing.
Yes. Well, not even just because it's the Obsidian Stout. It's your bet. Today we are going to have Obsidian Stout. And I'm very excited to say from Deschutes.
Yes, you're a big fan of Deschutes.
I'm a fanboy. I like them. They was one of the first beers that I really, really fell in love with, and I kind of started chasing the brewery, and I've tried a lot of their stuff.
I was with you the first time you had this beer.
Yep.
It was at a place called Beer Kitchen in Kansas City. I'm not even sure if they're still there. I assume they are. But it's a super cool place.
Really nice place.
And we all went in, and Chris wanted a milkshake, I'm pretty sure. Or at least described his beer as a milkshake. And this is what they gave him, and it's pretty damn close.
Yeah, as the beer sat on the table and got warmer, I started liking it more and more and more, and I was hooked. At that point, I knew dark beers was where I wanted to be.
And I am not a dark beer dude, but I am swinging that way these days. And so I'm super anxious to try this again, give it a new shot, because before it was a little thick for me, although it tasted wonderful. So Deschutes Obsidian Stout sits at 6.4 ABV, so a bit of a heavy hitter. 55 IBUs, and will run you about $9 to $11 a 6-pack, depending on where you live. So
this would be the heaviest beer we've had, isn't it? Or what was our IPA?
Ooh, Goose is sitting up there. I think it's 6+ at least. Right. So
well, it might be pretty close then.
But so the first thing you'll notice about these, and with most stouts, is this beautiful, thick, foamy
brown
head
or tan.
Yeah.
Oh, and the smell on them. The smell is one of my favorite things about a stout or a porter or a dark beer.
Yeah.
Particularly if they're in that kind of chocolatey category.
And we're going to talk about this stout in particular, but we need you to know right off the bat, if you've had a stout, and you haven't had very many, you've probably had Guinness. There's nothing wrong with Guinness, but Guinness is a nitroed beer, which means the bubbles are smaller. It has this sort of an odd texture if you're not used to it.
Real smooth, really tight flavored, and it's very consistent from one to the other. And again, nothing against Guinness or nitros, but the best way I know to describe one is it tastes flat, and that is because there's a lack of carbonation in it with the CO2 versus nitro.
Yeah.
It just doesn't taste like it's that big fizzy bubbliness. Now, this one, they describe it as having, I'm going to read this, says it is espresso, chocolate, roasted malt, black barley, and just enough hops to cut the sweetness.
You know, I'd say that's true. A lot of stouts are really sweet and heavy on the malts. This does have a little hop to it. It's pretty tasty.
No, I like so that for me these have a really broad range of flavor.
Yeah.
And when you talk about espresso, you're talking about a little bit of a coffee note, and that's usually that bitter, little bitter, astringent flavor in the back of it. And then the chocolate is like a dark chocolate, and it kind of falls in with that coffee, so you'll taste that in there. There's several styles of stouts. We'll go over them real quick here in a little bit. But, man, I like just how filling they are. How, not filling like big. They are that too. But
they can be. They certainly can be. It's a great winter beer. I mean, that's my thing. Is I have a real hard time drinking heavy stouts in hot weather. But man, when it's cold outside, it's like this and beef stew just together.
Oddly enough, you say that. There's not to derail what I was going to say, but if you get on their website, they actually have recipes to cook with
Obsidian Stout.
Yeah, with Obsidian Stout and stew being one of them.
Huh.
So,
all right. Yeah, go ahead.
I forgot now.
Well, I want to get into, because this tastes wonderful, but I want to get into like what a stout is, since this is our last like beer tutorial. We've covered major styles.
Let me really quick give a shout out to Deschutes.
He wants to fan.
I do want to fanboy just a little bit. Located Bend, Oregon, which I hope one day to get up there and be able to take the tour. They're employee owned. So
that's
I guess
cool.
If you're working there, you own part of the company at that point.
Yeah.
They've got at least 10 year-round beers, which I'm proud to say I've had at least 7 of them.
There you go.
They've got, 4, 5, 6, 8 other releases. And then they've got what they call the Reserve, which if you've ever seen them Deschutes bottles, it's dipped in the wax.
Yeah.
I've had at least 3 of those.
Those are good.
They are very, very good.
The Black Butte Porter is probably my favorite out of their line.
Yeah.
This is good, but this is a little thick for me. I don't mind a glass or 2 of it, but I wouldn't be drinking it all night.
This is my favorite one of them because it's so thick. But that's just the difference in our tastes. Yeah. My favorite thing about stouts, porters, is of all the beers, as this one tends to warm up,
it gets better.
It gets better. Yeah, the flavor profiles get more
no, you just
broad.
said something.
You just get to kind of try everything. You taste so many different things in it.
No, I absolutely.
And that's what I really like about them.
So you just said something. You said stouts and porters, and this is what has confused me for a long time. I'm just starting to get a grasp on it, but there's a difference between stouts and porters. Now, as I understand it, generally these days, a porter is somewhat of a slightly lighter beer, kinda, but not necessarily, because they're the same thing, right? I did that's a horrible job.
Boy, I think you just drove in a giant circle is what I think you did. Okay, so here's what I've actually been really confused about this.
I did a beer donut.
There is a donut beer. I've been really confused about this, and you're right. There really isn't much difference.
What is a stout?
Okay, so originally, from what I understand, and again, we've said 100 times, we're not brewers. We don't. If somebody wants to come in and correct us on this, we'd like to get you on the show, and you can set us straight. I know there is a bit of bickering between a porter and a stout and what they are.
I think we should make a storter.
Very, very thick storter beer.
Okay.
But the best I can tell, in general, stout, the term stout was originally used 400 years ago, and it wasn't even talking about a dark beer. It was just talking about a very strong beer, probably either in flavor or ABV. It wasn't very clear about that.
Okay.
About 100 years later, the term porter come around, talking about dark beers specifically. Sometime in the mix of while they was making porters, they had one that was very strong, and they called it a stout porter. And so stouts became a type of porter, or a description of a porter.
So it's the Kleenex problem.
Yeah.
Like all tissues
are Kleenex, and all common.
All Kleenex are tissues, but not all tissues are Kleenex.
Yeah. And you clean your sink always with Comet, even if it's the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Always. So I think that's where that basically breaks down to. Nobody really has had a really clear definition of what the difference in a porter and stout is. So I'm going to say, as of the 6th episode, they're the same thing.
There you go.
Looking back on this from a year from now, I may change my mind. But we'll be educated together, because that's what I know as of right now.
The big thing, and I can say this with authority because I'm not a fan generally of dark beers. I mean, it depends. It has to be the right situation, the right it has to hit me right. And I will say, like, do your research and, like, just try everything you get your hands on. There's not going to be one that's so bad you can't finish a glass of. And that's if you don't get a taster from your bartender. Because some of them, they're like IPAs. They range so drastically in character. From, like, big, thick and heavy to, like, small and thin. Yeah.
We'll talk about that here in just a second for a minute. But when you're talking about being able to get them, I want to just point out real quick, I did find out, I thought this was a hugely widely available beer, and it mostly is, but they stopped distributing at about Kentucky, North Carolina. So I don't know, in the East Coast, you guys might not be able to find this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right, real quick, let's get out of here, but first, I want to talk about one thing real fast. It's styles of stouts.
Oh, there's a ton of, there's like milk stouts, oatmeal stouts, crawfish stouts. I had to throw one in. You had
2 of them. All right. No, in all seriousness, milk stouts, which is basically kind of a sweeter stout that's got a derivative, a sugar derivative made from lactose, which is why they call it milk stouts. Dry stouts was pretty much your standard stouts, what they call an Irish stout as well, which is pretty much what we always have. Oatmeal stout, which I really like. It's got a great story to it. Maybe we'll do something bigger on them.
Those are my favorite.
They're one of my favorites as well. And chocolate stouts, which usually has a chocolate.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah, they used to not be mine. I actually lately I'm really enjoying those, but usually they have something that enhances their actual natural chocolate flavor, and a lot of times that is real chocolate being put in. Coffee stouts,
that's my favorite.
Also really good. Sorry. And same with chocolate, they have something that enhances the coffee flavor. Baltic Porter is on here. I don't know why they listed it with the stouts, but basically it's just a regional thing. They're made in a certain area, and that's
those are tasty, but they're not my favorite.
They're not my favorite either. But the one that is my favorite usually is the next one, which is an Imperial Stout.
No, that's my favorite.
Or the Russian Imperial Stout, also with a very cool story how they originated with their name. And they typically have a very high ABV.
What's the story behind that one? That is a cool story.
So, a lot of the beer was shipped out of England to the court of Catherine II in Russia, and it was so popular that it became known as the Imperial Stout. And now we kind of took a derivative of that. Well, now we call it more of an Imperial Stout, as in meaning it has high ABV. Before it meant it was a royal beer. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. I do like it.
Nice.
So
that is stouts. That is a primer on dark beer. We're going to do a ton more of this stuff and just go into, at this point, whatever we feel like drinking, whether it be a beer or a whiskey or kombucha.
Yeah, I think we'll get to whiskey pretty quick. We've got a lot on the shelf. We hope to get a lot more, and that's one of the places where we hope some of our viewers will step up and give us suggestions on whiskey, especially local.
Oh yeah, if
stuff,
you
and
love something, tell us in the comments so we can go find it and drink it.
Reach out to us if we can work something out where maybe you can help us obtain it. That would be even better, because sourcing that stuff sometimes
it can
is
be tricky.
A little hard when it's way away.
Yeah.
Other than that, guys, thank you again for sticking with us this far. We're going to shorten the episodes up going forward, I think, best we can, and we'll try to have more table episodes as well. So hopefully most of the information that we're going to get going out is stuff that we're both going to learn, and we're going to try to have some more guests and stuff that
yes, we do have some fun stuff coming up.
Maybe
until next time.
Whether it be the beer you're drinking
or the food you're eating.
That was my Shatner.
Yeah,
clothes you're wearing.
Or the people you're Or you can help us try something new by helping us out and supporting us so that we can buy an SD card that's large enough to film an entire episode. Until next time.
Try something new.